Welcome to Thinking Green. I'm Rana, and joining me today are Hannah Gant and John Curran, and they are, and I don't even remember what you said your role is. They are members of the steering committee of Spark, which is a new initiative in New London that's doing some pretty exciting and new things. So hopefully everyone will be interested in learning about it, and feel free to call in if you have any questions or comments or suggestions or something else to add. So welcome, John and Hannah. I guess what I wanted to start with was just some background information. Where did Spark come from?
Well, originally, the two of us were in separate groups trying to start up a new makerspace. And we ended up finding each other just through a series of Facebook posts. I learned about an event that occurred at the Rise Center, the Community Conspire event, and a makerspace won the contest for that. And I reached out to, I don't even know if I reached out to the right person, but I reached out to somebody. And then Hannah came and found me at the New London Art Festival, and we talked about it and decided it would make sense to join up. And we've been having some pretty awesome meetings, and we're definitely moving forward.
Yeah. So this is definitely the confluence of a few different developments. John first heard about this makerspace that had initially been a discussion coming out of kind of some initiative that Redtail Learning Center was developing. Redtail is, I like to think of it partly as a youth makerspace. It is kind of a social enterprise started last year by a woman named Martina Bottinelli, who's also on the steering committee with us. She started Redtail as a site for young people to direct their own learning. So she's really facilitating kids to pursue their own interests with a lot of support in a way that's very hands-on. A lot of like connections with kind of makers in the community to come in and provide some kind of workshops that are really providing an environment for kids to learn in a way that's very hands-on. And so as part of that, she had, back in April or something like that, started this conversation about creating a makerspace in New London. And a series of meetings happened, and that has kind of snowballed into earlier this year through the Community Conspire event, which is an event series that I facilitate, which is kind of an idea competition in which a group of people like immediately crowdsources and crowdfunds an idea. This makerspace idea was launched, and we've been having several we've had several meetings since then, and have had a lot of exciting developments to share. But I think before we really get into the developments, maybe we should talk a little bit about what a makerspace is.
I think that's a good idea, because I think you can get a little bit of an idea from the name,
from the words,
but I think it's a kind of a foreign concept to most people who would be watching.
It's a very new concept in general. I mean, most of them...
Although it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a combination of a community center and like a tech workshop, the traditional version of it anyway. It's a place where artists, students, inventors, crafters, hobbyists can come together and not only have the established community of, you know, a bunch of creators in the same place, but they also have access to tools and equipment that they might not otherwise have access to on their own. So things like 3D printers and laser cutters and engravers and full poster printers, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, I like the idea of a full poster printer.
Yeah, you can do all of your own advertising. It's fantastic.
Right. So it really is, I mean, the way, as John said, a lot of maker spaces that have been developed throughout the country are really kind of tech heavy. Yeah. And so the way it works is almost like a gym membership where you pay a subscription monthly cost to be a member, and then you have access to this space, which has all of this equipment and materials that would be prohibitively costly for an individual to own, but you have access to it and it's shared. And then with potentially a lot of materials as well to be using. And so, but our vision for it is not just within this kind of narrower range of kind of tech with like 3D printers and laser cutters and what have you.
But we're not having that. We are having that.
We're definitely having that. But we're really imagining this as a broader thing, trying to really capture a fuller spectrum of making and doing and creating that attracts and serves everyone. So we have a large contingent of the people who have been showing up and participating are fiber artists, actually.
Well, the idea really makes sense in terms of being able to have access to a lot of things in an efficient way. We've always said that every block needs someone with a pickup truck.
Right.
You don't need every house to have a pickup truck, but every dozen families maybe can use it to its fullest potential.
Right.
So for some of these expensive tools, whether it be looms or laser printers,
embroidery machines. And
right. Not everyone needs one.
Yeah.
No.
Right. No, my favorite analogy to having a makerspace was one I learned at MakerWorks recently in Ann Arbor, Michigan when I went to visit. It involves a lawnmower. Like, yes, almost everybody with a lawn has a lawnmower, but really, you use it at tops an hour
twice
a week.
A month. Yeah.
I mean, so really, you're paying to store a lawnmower rather than to use it. And you're using it for that 1 hour a week. And in this case, I mean, we're storing that lawnmower, and the entire neighborhood can use it. So
the analogy with the gym membership is kind of a good one too, because so instead of the abs machine that you're going to spend a couple hours on a week, maybe you have all these tools.
Right.
So you've had a lot of workshops there recently, right? There was something about electricity.
Yes.
Can you kind of give an idea of some of the programs other than the tools that people can come and see?
Well, while we are still, in development, we thought it would be, very early on, it was clear to everyone who was showing up that we wanted to organize ourselves as a cooperative. And so part of coming together as a cooperative isn't just starting a business. It actually is, it starts with starting a community. And so we have been creating these workshop opportunities really as Skillshare opportunities that looking at the people who are showing up and the skills that we have and creating these times on Wednesday nights and Saturday midday for the people who are showing up to be sharing some of the skills that they have for ourselves and people in the broader community to come and not charge anything at this time. We're really trying to focus on just building the community, and part of I think the underlying interest there's lots of different reasons why this is so exciting and lots of different reasons why people are attracted to it. And I know that for myself, one of the reasons why I am putting a lot of time into the development of Spark is that I really want to create a container and a culture in New London and southeastern Connecticut, because it's not just about New London. I think that, we're trying to be intentional about making this bigger and broader than that, but that there's a richness that exists in the knowledge that we all have as individuals, and that through coming together and teaching each other what we know, we will become more resourceful. And cultivating that within ourselves is really important, I think, especially as we move forward into a future that is going to require more of a localization of the economy.
Not to mention more cooperation, I think.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
An interesting point that you made is sharing people's personal resources, because I didn't grow up in Southeast Connecticut, but I've been here for about 30 years. And there's often a persistent negativity. And there's so much culture here and so much knowledge and skill that, to me, it just seems really nice to have an opportunity to really know what our neighbors offer, because it's more than you think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we're, really, as we move forward, doing these skill shares, and we actually have a space adjacent to Redtail in New London at 18 Masonic, where we are this winter, and that's where we've got our skill share stuff and some other things I can talk about.
Meetings
and holding our meetings there. We're still very much in a formative process, and figuring out collectively what this is as we play together and make things together through the skill shares and through our meetings, which are becoming not just organizing meetings, but opportunities to be sharing some of the things that we're working on. But one of the taglines we've played around with for Spark is that it is where creative community catches fire.
And so hopefully it will.
Hopefully it will, yeah.
Oh, it will.
Now, you mentioned earlier Community Conspire, and I think most of the viewers probably don't know much about that. Maybe you want to talk about how that started and what it is and what's come out of it.
Sure. Well, over the last year, I've recognized that some of the work that I do individually is kind of, it really has, like, I have an entrepreneurial background. I like getting things started, making things happen. And I've had a few of my own businesses and helped some community organizations to get started. And so I moved down to New London about 1.5 years ago. I'm from Washington State, but have been in Connecticut, living in Hartford since 2007. I went to college here at Trinity and graduated in 2003, but that wasn't really like a Connecticut experience, right? I did a business program a few years ago, and have really kind of cultivated myself as someone who can, bring people together to make things happen. And so I've been working with St. Francis House in a few different ways in New London. First off, with the Francis Fund for Southeastern Connecticut, which is a revolving loan fund that promotes and supports a sustainable, just regional economy. And I initially came down here to help the Francis Fund become more effective. And while I've been doing that, something I've been doing on the side is just providing kind of strategy and business development, coaching, but very informally to individuals and groups who have ideas that they want to move things forward on. And I've recognized over this last year that that really is where my talent lies and where I feel like the need is greatest in helping bring people together to make things happen. Not so much in the sphere of policing who gets resources. I mean, money is very important and access to capital is important, but part of the reason why it's not being accessed is that individuals and groups aren't ready for it. And so that's where have decided I want to be concentrating my energy, and through starting to take that more seriously, I've formalized that work under the name Metamorphosis, and with kind of a narrative inspired by the concept of metamorphosis, that there is latent potential in all of us as individuals, as groups, as organizations, and a society that we can look to and really, try to develop very intentionally with kind of like the trust that that will help us transition and transform into something different that's going to be much more productive. And through really understanding how to be present to that metamorphosizing work, I realized that I needed to start doing events, not just providing facilitation, project management, and business coaching. And so the events started with Community Conspire, which is a regular series that I do at the Rise Center, which is a new co-working space in New London, which I can talk a little bit more about if that is appropriate. But that the Conspire event is really an opportunity to crowdsource ideas. And so at the first one in September, there was about 30 people there, and I asked the crowd, like, come up with an idea that that really serves the community, but isn't necessarily like a business, but that it creates a lot of shared value and doesn't have to keep going, like being an ongoing thing. Like, let's be fun and light here and just have this be like an idea session. And then at the end of the night, we voted, and the winning project got the money from the door, because everyone pays $10 at the door to get in, and then there's also local food and drink, and there's music afterwards. So it's a fun environment. And by the way, that word conspire, which is a little bit edgy, it literally means to breathe together. That root of spire means breath and means spirit. So it's only, in modern times that it has taken on a little bit of a nefarious
Under
turn.
the table, yeah.
But the root, conspire, means to breathe together. And so a lot of the work that I'm doing through Metamorphosis is really trying to be a catalytic agent in getting everyday people to come together to make things happen. And Spark is just one example of like a project that is being catalyzed through the work that I'm doing as Metamorphosis. And at that first Community Conspire, Martina, who had been working on the makerspace idea, brought that idea, and actually Alicia McAvey, who works at Fresh New London, which is a youth agricultural organization, was there as well, and she had put forward the idea of a tool lending library. And so it was at the Conspire that those ideas were meshed together. And so one of the facets of Spark Makerspace is, one of our visions for it is that it's also a tool lending library. So it's not just a place where people can go utilize equipment, but they can actually take equipment out. So that lawnmower, or a whole just like toolbox set, or even
the power drill to
equipment.
hang up something you made in the makerspace,
Right. And so that is part of the story, is coming through Metamorphosis and the Community Conspire series. That the makerspace and was joined with this idea of a tool lending library. But even that was September, and so much has continued to develop since then.
Yeah, in spite of what you said, this is an idea that seems to be persisting and have legs and will
certainly not a
keep
one-time
on going.
Yes, it did not meet that criteria.
It was a little more ambitious and long.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, John, I'm hearing about how these two related ideas came together in that Community Conspire, and talking a little bit to you and Hannah before the show, it seems like you two kind of came together doing related things. So what was your focus before you got involved in Spark?
Well, I have a very heavy interest in art and trying to make things myself. None of it turns out great, but I have fun making it, and that's what's really important.
I was a preschool teacher. It's all process anyway.
It's all process.
And in trying to find other things to play with, I bought myself a laser cutter and a 3D printer. And I immediately kicked myself for doing so, because I bought 2 lawnmowers in doing that. And since I'm active duty Navy and I'm only here temporarily, so I don't necessarily know a lot of people that I can share that lawnmower with on my own. So I started getting together with some of my new artist friends over at the Hygienic, and offering to share with them, and they were like, yeah, this is a great idea. It should be shared, more widely. And I started trying to look at business models that do things like that, collectively use these types of larger, heavy equipment. And the makerspace popped up, and I started reading about the maker movement and Make Magazine and everything along those lines, and I thought it was a fantastic idea. I already had some of the equipment, so I started looking at what I had to do to create one. And I hadn't gotten very far, because I still do have my full-time job. I didn't get very far on my own, but it was about that time that I found the Facebook post about the Community Conspire, and I think it was Martina that I got a hold of. But and I reached out, and again, we met up, and it was very positive.
So it sounds like just having that stuff, you want it to be used, and not just sit in storage.
Yes. I probably do one project a month. It takes me 6 to 8 hours. The rest of that, it is sitting there in my apartment, not doing anything. So, I really wanted it to be used and not just be a big waste of money in my apartment.
Yeah, I feel as though, in the last maybe 30 years, we've started living very inefficiently. And our quality of life sort of suffers because we only have access to what's in our own four walls. Even when I was a kid in the 50s, it was different. We lived in small houses and dense communities, and there seemed to be a lot more sharing back and forth, and we've lost some of that, and I think people kind of feel poorer because of it.
Yeah, I grew up in a very rural town in Texas, population less than 3,000, and we had a lot of sharing going on. Growing up from there, going to college in Austin, and then joining the Navy, and finding out that people don't really do that too much anymore was a little bit of a culture shock.
Yeah, it's a funny paradox that all of the affluence has made us poor.
Yes.
In a way.
And we feel poor too, in spite of incredible affluence compared to...
Right, but it's a material wealth that's not enriching, and it is kind of this oxymoron that through sharing what we have, we are really enriched. And it's not just the relationships, it's what we create together. I'm very excited about, the sparks that will fly at these skill sharing workshops.
So the conspiring is really a little more than just breathing together, right?
Yeah. As long as the whole community is conspiring together.
Right. As long as we're in it together. And I'm excited. I think that we have a lot of. It's a very exciting time, Rana. Both, I think, for Spark in New London, but also at a larger scale. That this is part of a movement of doing more with less. That there are these, that there is this collaborative consumption and this creative economy. And,
far less waste.
And just that there's and product as service, where we're really understanding that we don't need things. We need what the things provide for us, and that we can share our cars through car sharing. We need the transportation. We don't need the car. We need our lawn to get mowed. We don't need the lawnmower. And so. I think it's particularly, a lot of this stuff is is trendy in like some of those bigger, much cooler places like San Francisco or Seattle, where like there really is a buzz around all of that, but so much potential here in places like New London that there's been like a history of a little bit of like economic downtroddenness. We've told ourselves a story that we don't have. We need money, but actually there's a richness that exists not just, especially with the people who are here, but everyone has a lot of materials, and that if we pool that together, then we can like jump the tracks from this story of we don't have enough to, well, we're doing it. We do have it. And so our hope through the development of Spark is that we can create that container that makes it a lot easier for that to be manifested. And we're trying to do it in a very open and inclusive way so that it's not just us making it happen, but it is everyone making it happen. So, that this really is a cooperative effort, and we are early on in the stage. So I'm excited to be here on Thinking Green, telling the southeastern Connecticut world about Spark, and come to spark.coop and figure out how you can participate in this, because it really our vision for it is that it is a community business.
And one point I want to make is right here and now there is a tremendous amount of anxiety about the economic future of the region. As you know, there are a few big employers that we don't know whether they're sustainable. And it's really a great idea to start making people aware of more opportunities rather than be in a panic over what's going to be. Right. And there are a lot of opportunities. Mm-hmm. It strikes me that neither of you comes from New England. Is there anything about New London that seems to draw people here who want to do interesting things? I see it a lot, and I'm not from New England either.
Yeah.
I don't know. I went to school in Austin, which is very artsy, very rock and roll town. Now it's kind of a bustling
yeah, it's gotten
city.
Pretty big.
But I had a lot of the same sense of that when I got stationed nearby, and I've already decided to make this my next home. It just has a really good feeling about it, at least to me.
Yeah, and I mean, for my part, I think people who grow up here, they don't know any different, and there is this kind of meta-narrative about New London as being kind of depressed or dangerous, but that is not my experience at all. And everyone who I talk to who has moved into New London is like, this place is great. I love the scale of New London. I love, just the size kind of scale, right. Like how compact it is, that it has a little bit of like an urban feel to it, but it's all very accessible. And partly because of this kind of, somewhat depressed economy, there are a lot of, vacancies, but there hasn't been the same market penetration of chains and big box stores. And so, when you look at like downtown New London, like the businesses that exist are largely independent businesses, and that has like, to successfully run your own business, like does require like creativity and, entrepreneurial spirit. And so I think New London is one of the arts capitals of Connecticut, the creative capitals of Connecticut, and that that there's so much already working in Connecticut, in New London, that we're really hoping to be, to contribute to that in a galvanizing way.
And it is in a way a blessing that New London has the reputation for being kind of depressed, because I think the city's better off without having the big box stores.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
I can't imagine. I'm sure all the family-owned coffee shops in town would suffer if we got
Right.
Starbucks downtown. Mm-hmm. So in a way, the fact that New London's a lot better than its reputation, I think, works in our favor.
Yeah, it's kind of a best-kept secret. In a way.
Oh no, we shouldn't be talking about it.
Did I just say that?
Now, you talked a little bit about cooperative organization of enterprises. But I wanted, recently Connecticut passed a law creating something called a B Corporation. And I think a lot of people don't know what it is. And I think it might be interesting and relevant to some of the viewers to know what a B Corp is and how it can help build community and business.
Right. Yeah, it is true that this year the state passed through the state legislature is this new corporate form called a benefit corporation. And it basically designates is a way for a for-profit business to designate itself as having a social or environmental purpose or mission. And, there's a couple of different reasons for doing that. And one of the primary ones is for publicly traded companies that become benefit corporations. It creates a protection for those businesses if they are not, quote unquote, maximizing return to shareholders, financial return to shareholders, that they can make decisions that may prioritize the social or environmental benefit that might cost a little bit more money, and that would safeguard that business from any kind of legal action against their shareholders or from their shareholders. Yeah. So really, that's a very practical reason to become a benefit corporation. But at the kind of the local level, most businesses are independently owned and don't need that kind of protection. And so becoming a benefit corporation is really, at that level, is a way to indicate to your customers and different stakeholders that you do have this mission. And the requirements for benefit corporations in the state of Connecticut are that you do create an annual report of how you are following through on your mission, where you're at with that, and that as part of that you do some kind of third-party audit. And there's that sounds complicated, but it's not necessarily. And it just, I think it's, and it sounds like it might be a lot of work, but it's actually, I think it's work that can be very clarifying and helpful for businesses at the local level. And most of our businesses are trying to be good citizens. That's part of running a successful business, is that you're not just trying to make a buck here, you're trying to create value. You're trying to help, fulfill a need in society at large, whether that is producing a good cup of coffee at the local coffee shop, or even Spark, right? Spark very much has a social mission, but we are, and we're actually thinking of doing a legal form filing as a nonprofit, because that will create a lot of ways for us to receive financial support for the work that Spark will be doing, but that is not...
And it makes sense for us anyways, because we intend to keep the money in the business regardless, to keep investing in ourselves and keep investing in our membership, so...
And it makes sense, too, for these small businesses where the owners, whether it be an individual or a family or a cooperative, all live in the community.
Yeah.
So, you reap the benefits that you put in through your everyday life.
Right.
Now, if you go to the Spark website, which is spark.coop, right?
Yes.
Yes.
One of the prominent things you see is what cooperative principles. So can you talk a little bit about what cooperative principles are in terms of running a business?
Yes. The 7 cooperative principles are the basic designation of what is important to running something cooperatively, which sounds really circular. And I just talked myself into a circle by doing that.
Go get it, John.
They basically really support the fact that within the cooperative is open membership. Anybody that wants to be a part of the cooperative should be allowed to be a part of the cooperative, whether that's as a worker co-op. All of the current employees should be allowed to be part of the business structure. It involves one member, one vote, so no single person owns this co-op. It's owned by everybody, and everybody gets an equal say in what goes on. It involves being completely transparent to all members, and just being as completely open, fair, and accessible to everybody, so that every single person who's involved in the operation of the business is fully informed, so that they can make proper decisions in how to further the business.
And there's also something in this openness that that is non-hierarchical that we're trying to go for. I mean,
definitely,
we did identify ourselves as kind of members of this steering committee, right? And our vision for how this develops is that not that we're trying to develop over this winter time period, doing these Skillshare kind of workshops and some events that are like little maker fairs. And the first one's going to be on December 13th from 12 to 4 p.m. at 18 Masonic. We can talk a little bit about that.
We'll talk about that.
But that we're using this winter to really kind of develop our business plan and figure out how we're going to launch into a much bigger space, and that will mean getting some paid staff, but that doesn't mean we're hiring a CEO or executive director to be in charge, right? That we're identifying all of the different functional parts of what is going to make Spark a vibrant business, and building teams of people around that work and a structure that allows those teams and those individuals to share the work of running this business in a way that isn't as hierarchical. I mean, you can almost think about it as more of like a network, where at this time, this steering committee is really more of a nucleus trying to help spread out the work and really create a clear structure and a sense of what the work is, and communicating that out for individuals and other teams to form around, so that we can all collectively share this responsibility of making Spark happen. Not that it is this hierarchy of management kind of like telling people what to do. We're really trying to approach this differently, in which we're collectively like figuring out what to do.
Yes.
Right? And then creating some mechanisms that establish accountability. So it's not anarchy. It has a logic to it, and it does function. There's lots of cooperatives that exist, and it's not just one model, but it really is us coming together to collectively figure out how that works in a way that is open and transparent. And as part of our commitment to transparency and our desire to be pulling more people in, like as we move forward, I encourage people to check in on the spark.coop website, where we will be publishing what we think our budget is. It's right now we've got just the generic cooperative principles up there, because that's just where we're at in our development. But like, we're working on our bylaws. We're working on our budget. We're working on what are these different teams that are forming, and want to be using the website and our other communication channels to share that, not just to publish it, but to like really let people, to use it as an organizing tool, so that like people who are part of kind of understand themselves to be currently part of that membership, and others who are interested can be observing and tracking as it evolves, and know how things are working, and how to plug in, and what teams are forming that you might want to get involved in to really help make this happen. I mean, so that is how it is. We're trying to foster something that is very cooperative and open.
Now, you mentioned something happening on the 13th. So maybe you can talk about that and any other upcoming events that people can, go in the flesh to find out more about you.
Definitely. The 13th is one of our more casual events, but we're trying to make it a very large casual community event. It's going to end up being a potluck plus various smaller maker activities. I intend to bring stuff to make Christmas ornaments. We have a couple people bringing just smaller projects to work and to teach and to share our skills.
Yeah, this will be the first of what we think maybe a monthly series that is just kind of feels more open house-like, and just like kind of a mini makers fair where it's just whomever can make it and wants to make it, let's come and hang out. Let's make some things together. Probably we'll have that structured a little bit where maybe it's on the half hour. There'll be like a different demo, but that we'll also eat together and just hang out. That's on Saturday, December 13th from 12 to 4.
And the address again?
And that's at 18 Masonic Street.
Which for people who go to like city council meetings, it's right down the block from City Hall.
Right.
Right across the street from the post office.
And right across across the street from the finance building. So some of you who come to a lot of city meetings and are involved politically in the city might be interested in getting involved in the city on another level.
Right. Yeah. Right. And in terms of ways that we come together, we also have been having kind of organizing planning meetings every 2 or 3 weeks. The next one is Thursday, December 4th at 5:30 p.m. also at 18 Masonic. And we're starting to play with a structure that is kind of the first hour of making together and playing together. So from 5:30 to 6:30 is really more playful. And then for anyone who wants to stick around, the steering committee will be facilitating some of this more organizational development stuff.
Now we're the nuts and bolts of what we're doing.
Yeah, nuts and bolts. And so that's our next kind of organizing planning meeting on Thursday, December 4th. And then we'll pick back up in January after the holidays. And all that information can be found on spark.coop. But as well, we've got the skill shares, which are Wednesday nights and Saturday midday. We just had the one that was last Saturday was all about home electric stuff, which was
basic electricity.
Basic electricity, which was awesome. We had, I think, over 10 people show up, and people were really excited to be educated in some just basic home electricity. That, a lot of this stuff that we don't know how to do is not rocket science.
Yeah. We could do it.
We can do it.
And it won't put Helen out of work.
Right. And it will not put Helen out
We can do
of
the
work.
basic stuff.
Right. And she's the first person to tell you, you can do this, but you should get help with that. Yeah. So yeah, there's a variety of ways for people to engage with the skill shares, the planning meetings, and these, the December 13th, event, which is more of like a mini maker fair.
Now, for the artists among you, I noticed that you also have a logo contest going,
Yes.
right? Tell us about the logo contest. And I did print out
That up there. Probably can't see that.
Well, he can zoom in on it. So
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll be able to read it all.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's on the website if people want to go.
Yeah,
It is
spark.coop/website, or logo, /website.
/logo. In keeping with our cooperative principles, we wanted to engage as many people as possible in getting a local artist to create our new logo for us. We're looking for something, exciting, and we're hoping for a really great turnout so that we can definitely get a local artist to help us out here. And local means anywhere where they could find our website. It's pretty distant.
Yeah. But there are a lot of local
Southeastern
graphic
Connecticut.
artists
Yes,
here.
yes.
Right. So
Right.
it could well turn out to be someone really, really local.
Right across the street at the Hygienic. We got
So the deadline for submissions that we're trying to cap at is December 2nd. And with kind of the delightful, delicious carrot of a year of free membership at Spark once it really opens up in its new, more robust space, sometimes next year, as well as $200. So,
and then every participant that submits a valid, I hate to say, submits a valid logo, but we don't want to just get random Comic Sans, Spark, New London sent to us.
Yeah.
Every participant that sends in a logo will actually get a free month as well. So we're really trying to
encourage and incentivize.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if
some
artists
great
want to do
submissions.
that, they should go to the website, and there are more details about
Yes.
the specs and how to submit.
Definitely.
Right. And then part of that December 4th planning organizing meeting will be looking at the top submissions and making a decision as a community. So that would be a particularly fun meeting to come to if you're into branding and presentation stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds fun.
Yeah. So
Now, we have a little bit more time, and you had mentioned the Rise Center in your conversation before. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about what's going on at the Rise Center, because there seem to be a lot of interesting things popping up around downtown New London.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
people should know about all of them.
Right.
Yeah, I've got a couple things to talk about. And, I think Spark is makerspace for people who like, it's a shared workspace for people who like to make things with their hands. And Rise Center is a shared workspace for people who like to do things and think creatively. It's
Need
really
a business office to do so.
It's what's called a co-working space, and it is on State Street, kind of where at the bottom of the Mohegan at 179 State Street, and the Community Conspires have been held there. I've been doing some of the event programming there as Metamorphosis. But it really is, it's a shared office space for entrepreneurs and freelancers to also pay kind of a monthly fee or a daily fee to have access to the space with not just internet, but also a little lounge area so you can get your coffee and tea. So, what you're paying for, if you're someone who works independently and you work at the coffee shop a lot, this is an alternative to that may be a better value even financially compared to what you might be paying at the coffee shop in coffee and food and whatever. You pay that monthly or daily fee, however you want to plug in at the Rise Center. And then you're also working alongside other people and letting, the sparks fly. And so the co-working space is part of, there's been a lot of co-working spaces that have developed, and now there's I think at least 10 in the state of Connecticut. And it's really just part of this larger kind of cooperative.
And it isn't just about getting the space, it's about working together, right?
Right.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, it just depends on what the person who's showing up wants. But is access to the space, but then they also have
materials
events
and in addition. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, events, workshops, and like you said, access to some materials and the community that forms around it. So. The other thing that is developing kind of within Spark is something that I've been working on as part of this metamorphosis, really trying to help new cooperative enterprises get started, is been working with what began as a craft circle at the Homeless Hospitality Center and recruiting some people to help that develop in an enterprising way. And so that is being called Re-Inspire, again using that spire root of breath and spirit, but now with the prefix of re, so breathing new life into old materials and untapped talent locally to create products that have functionality and kind of creative character. And so mornings in the Spark space at 18 Masonic, this Re-Inspire group has been meeting right now on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but I'm actively looking for people who want to participate in helping to make this Re-Inspire project happen. And that is, basically we're trying to figure out what are some materials, waste materials that are readily available locally that we could be upcycling into products for sale. And so we've been starting with rag rugs out of fabric, coil baskets, making Christmas ornaments, and really just trying to start to figure out how we interact together and what are these projects that we could be working on, creating opportunities for people at the Homeless Hospitality Center and through Sound Community and other kind of populations of people who have this additional time and are looking for opportunities to be useful and to but not necessarily get a job, but create a job. I mean, we're really trying to collectively create opportunities. And so there's more information about Re-Inspire on the spark.coop website, but that is a project that is kind of being incubated through Spark. And one of the features that I'm not sure that we really highlighted about Spark is that we see it as developing into also a reuse center. That if you imagine, our vision for Spark, as we evolve and grow and launch into a bigger space, imagine like a large warehouse where it's not just filled with equipment to be making things, but where do the materials come from to be making things? It's not just that we're buying stuff, but that we're really looking for, excess materials, waste materials, diverting things that it may be heading to the landfill, and that those could be the kind of materials for making things, and that Spark could also be this this screen for those materials, that some of those things could be going to the Homeless Hospitality Center's thrift store, Homeward Bound. That there's a relationship with HHC. Some of those things could be, really nice things, could be taken down to the New York market to get like a higher price point in that kind of second-hand market. And so that, Spark is really a container for much more than just a maker space. It does have this reuse component. It will be a tool lending library. There is like this Re-Inspire kind of upcycling element begins with fiber arts, but there's so much more that can happen with that. And so Spark is just, it has the potential to be incredibly multidimensional, and that's why it needs to be a cooperative, is because we don't need one person at the top of it. Like, it is a cluster of all of these different activities.
In all different
and
directions.
we need teams of people around all of these different activities.
And we are out of time. We have like 30 seconds, maybe. So people can go to the website, spark.coop, and there's all kinds of information about how to get involved. And I did promise Martina that I would mention that on Monday, December 1st, there's going to be a program at Red Tail at 7 p.m. about fracking.
Okay. So, and while we're at it, we might as well say Red Tail is having a pancake breakfast this Saturday.
Saturday at
9 to 12. Also at the 18 Masonic space, so come down. We hope to be making a large sign for Spark to put up in the window. Yep, so that would be, a fun project to work on.
That'd be awesome.
Well, we'll see you around town, and we'll see you all next week.
Yeah. Thank you, Rana.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, you're welcome.
hobbits